control. Stand down. It's a relationship based on respect.
Hello, and welcome to Film Rant. This is our very first video, so please forgive any parts that are rough around the edges. Anyway, this is basically a film rant / review of Jurassic Park 1 HD edition, otherwise known as Jurassic World. Now from here on out, we do go into the dreaded area of spoiler territory. Not just for Jurassic World, but actually one minor spoiler for Parks and Recreation. Bet you didn't see that coming. Now I'll start out by basically saying that most of the problems with this movie come from the writing, and not from the direction or performance of the actors, which is a bit strange, considering it was originally meant to be released in 2014 but got bumped back to July 2015, so that they could perfect the script. Yeah, good job guys. One of the glaring issues with this movie is the characters. Firstly, I can say I love Chris Pratt as much as anybody, so let's just appreciate what a legend this guy is.
Bye, bye, little Sebastian. Miss you in the saddest fashion. Bye, bye, little Sebastian. You're 5,000 candles in the wind.
Okay, now that that's over with, his character is fucking awful in this movie. I mean, damn. I wasn't expecting Star-Lord or Andy Dwyer, but I wasn't expecting anybody as cardboard and two-dimensional as Owen Grady. For some reason this guy is ultra serious. Yeah, he has a few comical remarks and one-liners, but not one of them actually made me laugh, and they're few and far between. It's okay to have a character that's ultra serious in a Jurassic Park movie. Sam Neill, who plays Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, was a serious character, but you'd expect that kind of character from Sam Neill. Whereas with Chris Pratt, I, like many other people, have only seen him in Guardians of the Galaxy and Parks and Recreation. Andy Dwyer, his Parks and Recreation character, wouldn't be far off Star-Lord if he was a bit more intelligent and a little bit less childish.
Leslie, I typed your symptoms into the thing up here and it says you could have network connectivity problems.
Another big scale performance from Pratt is his role as Emmett in the Lego Movie. What do these three characters have in common? They all appeal to children, and as such they have humorous characteristics in their personality. Now, Parks and Rec isn't a children's show, but Andy Dwyer does appeal to children because he's a very childish character, so far that he actually turns into a children's character later on in Johnny Karate. There's your Parks and Rec spoiler for you. I'm not saying Chris Pratt is typecast, but we're used to seeing him play a certain kind of role by now. Owen Grady is not that character, so it was very disappointing to go into a film thinking, yeah, Chris Pratt, this is going to be good, and leaving thinking, where the fuck was he? I don't know if it's a problem with the casting or a problem with the character. For the record, I will be referring to Owen Grady as Chris Pratt throughout the rest of this review because, hey, Chris Pratt. While you can argue Jurassic World is a kids' film, so a Pratt character would work well, it isn't an all-out kids' film. But for the sake of the wonderful flow of this review, I'm going to say it's a character problem, which brings me to the kids, two of the central characters of the film. This is a plot element ripped straight from Jurassic Park 1. In Jurassic Park 1, the kids enabled Alan Grant's character arc of changing from a child-loathing, career-obsessed fella to a caring father figure. Now, the children in Jurassic World serve a similar purpose. They are the catalyst for the moral change in Claire Dearing's character arc, although this character arc is much more contrived and delivered in a ham-fisted way. As for the kids themselves, the dynamic between them is something we've seen 1,000 times before. One kid is young, a bit nerdy and full of wonder. The other is in their mid-teens and thinks the childish wonder and nerdiness of the younger one is super lame. I'll start with the older kid, Zach. I fucking hate that guy. If my kid ever turns out to be as miserable as this guy, I'll disown him. Every time the younger kid Gray wants to look at a dinosaur or see something amazing, he's constantly grabbing Zach's arm and going, look here, look at this, wow, cool, you know, typical young kid stuff. But this Zach guy just shows no interest at all. I'm sitting thinking, dude, why the fuck are you even at Jurassic World? You clearly don't give a shit about dinosaurs, which actually links into a line from the beginning of the movie. More on that later. Zach also has a weird trait where whenever he sees a bunch of girls around his age, he ogles at them in the most unsubtle way possible. Seriously, this dude has zero game. I get why this is part of his character, he's in his teens, we've all been there guys. But the film focuses on this trait more than enough times. Like 3 or 4 times we see him ignoring his brother or what's going on in favour of staring at women. We get it, he's horny, moving on. Gray, the kid from Iron Man 3, is cool. He was a character I could relate to and support. He seemed to be the most sensible out of him, his brother and Auntie Claire, who was absent from them for most of the movie. Gray draws parallels with Timothy from Jurassic Park 1, in that he shares the same love and fascination with dinosaurs, but is equally terrified whenever he sees one. There's not much to say about Gray in all honesty, he's just a nice kid who you want to make it out alive. There comes a point in the story where Zack and Gray are sitting in the back of a van, driven by Auntie Claire, and they have a very weird emotional moment which seems to come from nowhere. It literally has no build-up. We see no arc in Zack's character that would logically lead him up to what he says. Gray is asking, "Nothing's getting in here, right?" To which Zack responds recounting a ghost in their old house and how he protected Gray with a battle axe made out of a ruler and paper plate. Okay. Anyway, he then goes on to say how they're brothers and they'll always come back to one another no matter what. All through the film, Zack seems like he wants to get away from Gray. Not one scene before, Auntie Claire asks them to put their seatbelts on, but there are none, so she says, "Hold hands." Gray reaches out to Zack to hold his hand, and Zack's just sat there like, "Fuck that, you pussy." In summary, Zack, get in the fucking sea. Auntie Claire is the female lead, and a very fucking poor one at that. She does have one interesting trait though, and that is that initially she chooses the business or her career over protecting the lives of her nephews Zack and Gray. To her knowledge though, Zack and Gray are with her assistant, so why should she worry? I don't know about you, but assistant or not, if a super mutant dinosaur was roaming around near some of my family, I'd still be a little worried. She doesn't seem to give two shits about them for most of the film. However, it is a little refreshing to see a female lead who isn't automatically family orientated. Instead of rushing to her family's aid and cowering in a corner, which happens in so many movies these days, she actively joins Chris Pratt in hunting down the Indominus Rex. Pretty fucking cool. Until she outruns a T-Rex in high heels. Auntie Claire suddenly decides to care when she learns that Zack and Gray are stranded out in the woods against a giant ball made of glass, because that's safe. This park has some weird security lapses. It's so easy for the kids to move anywhere they like, unmonitored in their little snow globe. What kind of fucking dinosaur park would allow this? Surely each globe would have either a leader to follow, an auto shutdown feature in case somebody went rogue, or at the very least an onboard member of staff who could make sure this kind of shit doesn't happen. Anyway, once Claire eventually decided to care, her character fades into the back a little. She simply becomes a shield for the children while Chris Pratt goes all action hero. Ironic that as soon as she conforms to the role that people stereotypically expect her to do, her character becomes much less interesting. There's been a lot of talk about female roles in media recently, and Jurassic World almost dealt with the issue wonderfully, but fell at the last hurdle. Another standout character is Wilson Fisk. I mean Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays head of security, Vic Hoskins. From the onset, he's portrayed as the bad guy. We see Pratt handling the raptors at the beginning of the movie and Hoskins is telling him how he plans to use the raptors, but doesn't really say what for. And to be honest, I still don't know. I think it's something to do with using them in the military, but in an age of experimental exosuits, predator missiles and UAVs, why the fuck would you choose to use a raptor in your military lineup? I can tell you this though, that would be one hell of a killstreak reward in the next Call of Duty. The only reason I can think of that makes using raptors in the military a logical possibility is if the universe in which Jurassic Park exists, militaries in all countries are still in the Neanderthal period of humanity and have not grasped how to use tools yet. Somehow, this seems unlikely. One interesting thing about Vic though is how he's portrayed as the bad guy, but when he eventually does get to use his evil plan and release the raptors, it actually turns out to be not that evil, for a time. At first, he seemed like the evil genius that's been hiding in the shadows all along. Maybe Chris Pratt was wrong when he said, "Don't do it, lad, they'll kill all of us." Nope, he was right. As soon as we see the badass shot of Chris Pratt riding his bike with a squad of raptors, no doubt off for a cheeky Nando's, they immediately encounter the Indominus, who becomes the raptors' new alpha, and they turn on everyone. So, poor old Vic goes to being the bad guy again. Chris Pratt has just sat there like, "Oh you, I told you, but did you listen? No, onto the naughty step for you." So yeah, it was nice to briefly think that maybe the bad guy was the hero all along, but in typical Jurassic Park manner, the dinosaurs fucked all that up. Points for that, Jurassic World. The most interesting character was this guy. This is the Agent Coulson of the Jurassic World. He delivers all the comedy. He even has a cool shirt. Look at that. I might actually buy one. The shirt is actually talked about early in the movie, but more on that later. There's a great moment with this guy when everything goes wrong where he tries to heroically kiss his co-worker. She quickly rejects and says she has a boyfriend, and he's left standing there like... I love this. It was a great parody of terribly timed kisses in movies with people who have no chemistry. Quite ironic because earlier in the movie this exact thing happens with Chris Pratt and Auntie Claire. I'm not sure if it's being self-referential or not, in that the director is saying, look at all the terrible cliches we put in this movie, let's all laugh at them. Which leads me to... Jimmy Fallon? Wait, no. That's not it, but... Jimmy Fallon is in this? Okay. Anyway, which leads me to... Points in the film which pretty much outright say that Jurassic Park was better. We can never beat it, so we may as well playfully admit defeat in this movie. At the start of the movie, when introducing the idea for the Indominus Rex, Claire says, let's be honest, no one is impressed by a dinosaur anymore. 20 years ago, de-extinction was right up there with magic. Now kids look at a stegosaurus like an elephant from the city zoo. She then goes on to say the consumers want the dinosaurs to be bigger, louder, with more teeth. No, we fucking don't. We just want a good movie. It's like the script is referencing the cliches and faults in big Hollywood blockbusters without realising that it is one. It's common that Hollywood have been ramping everything up so that it's bigger, louder, with more teeth, but that's not what makes a good film. It's the story that matters, and that's Jurassic World's biggest fault. The first time we meet this guy, Claire looks at his shirt and asks, where did you get that? To which he replies, oh, this? I got it on eBay. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. He then goes on to say, that first park was legit. You know, I had a lot of respect for it. They didn't need these genetic hybrids, they just needed dinosaurs. Real dinosaurs. That's kind of enough. Oh my god. It's like they know the script is fucking awful, so they just outright say it is. I honestly don't know if I like this or not, to be honest. One thing Jurassic World does right with its Jurassic Park references is some of the nice homages in the motifs. We see the Indominus rampaging through the original Jurassic Park set, much like the T-Rex and Raptors did. We hear the ominous bass heavy stomps as the dinosaur approaches. At the end of the movie, the T-Rex claims the island and roars into the sunset. And finally, we see the iconic shot that defines Spielberg's directing prowess, the water ripples in the cup on the dashboard. Oh no, hang on, we don't. It seems strange to leave out the biggest motif that signals an oncoming Etolosaurus, but maybe they just respect Spielberg's craftsmanship and let him have that. One thing that director Colin Trevorrow did beautifully was his use of Gray's phone vibration in the glass ball. When Claire calls him, Gray's phone is resting on the glass out of reach and vibrating. We all know that when your phone vibrates on a surface it makes a fucking loud and irritating noise. However, Trevorrow moulded this into a T-Rex roar. Seriously, if you didn't pick up on this on your first watch it again and you'll notice. I love this. It's the kind of subtlety that Jurassic World lacks, but this was gold. Now, the script. My oh my, the script. Looking at the script at face value is as follows. Dino Park opens. People are nervous about dinos escaping but don't think it'll happen. What do you know? Dino escapes, gobble gobble gobble, raptors, lots of running, dino eventually goes down and everyone leaves the island, leaving it to the remaining dinosaurs. It all sounds very familiar, but is executed in a much poorer manner. Now, for the sake of time, I'll just rattle off a few questions I have with the script. Maybe you guys can answer them in the comments in case I missed something. Okay, here goes. Why would the parents let the kids go by themselves? Yeah, they were meeting Aunt Claire, sort of, but it seems a fucking long way to Jurassic World. Damn you, David Wallace. How was the Indominate bulletproof? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure some of the rangers shot the dinosaur a few times and it didn't even flinch. What happened to all the pterodactyls? They escape and cause absolute fucking havoc. Seriously, the only thing worse would be flying fucking spiders, or flying AIDS.
This plague was airborne. Let me put that in context for you. Flying AIDS.
But yeah, they cause a lot of havoc and kill a lot of people. Chris Pratt and co get into a jeep and drive on out of there. The pterodactyls are never seen and talked about again. They just totally fucking disappeared. And again, Jimmy Fallon? Okay, now looking at things in more detail. The foreshadowing is horrendous. What I was saying about subtlety earlier, well, this is about as subtle as a gynecologist in a gas mask. At the start of the movie, Gray and Zach's mother says to them,
and remember, if something chases you, run.
Seriously? It's almost parody, it's that bad. In fact, I hope it is. I can forgive it if it's parody. Moving on, the very offbeat love story between Chris Pratt and Auntie Claire needs to decide if it wants to be there or not. At no point in the film do I think that Chris Pratt is romantically interested in Auntie Claire. I get that she likes him, but not the other way around. There's a scene when they first meet where they offer some element of backstory where they mention they went on a date once, but neither seem interested in continuing the romance. By the time they kiss, shortly after Claire owns a pterodactyl and saves Chris Pratt, I'd totally forgotten about this previous romance. There's nothing else in the movie to suggest these two would get together, and yet, life finds a way. Ugh, no. It's not in reference to that, it can't be. There's elements where the film misses the opportunity to explain things. As I've mentioned with subtlety, some things are best left unsaid and simply hinted at. Some things, on the other hand, are worth pointing out directly. Maybe not through dialogue, but through visual storytelling. There's a scene in which a helicopter is chasing the Indominus through some woods and the gunner has a fucking minigun and somehow can't hit the Indominus once. He's about as accurate as a stormtrooper. Now, the film draws attention to the fact that the pilot, the park's owner Simon Masrani, is terrible at flying. I could only guess that this was the reason that the gunner was missing every shot. But the chopper isn't flying erratically during the time he's shooting. It would have been nice to clarify why he couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo. Some of the action in the movie leaves a lot to be desired too. At times we get almost B-movie standard action sequences, something you'd see in Sharknado or Mega Shark vs Giant Octopus. For example, there's a scene later on where Claire's driving away from the raptors. A raptor, in a very suicidal kamikaze type manner, runs from the side and just throws itself through the door window and snaps its jaws frantically. When this happened, a guy behind me in the cinema actually let out a belting laugh, and I couldn't blame him. What the fuck am I watching? Aren't these raptors meant to be intelligent? It came as no surprise near the end of the movie to find out the untold part of the Indominus's DNA was raptor. It might have been nice for Auntie Claire to tell Chris Pratt that before he let the raptors out to attack the Indominus Rex, but hey, fuck it, let's just risk it and see if the raptors turn on them, which they do. It's sort of obvious what's going to happen. Earlier in the film we see the raptors still don't really obey Chris Pratt.
It's not about control. Stand down.
It's a relationship based on respect.
Shortly after this viral image, the raptors try to attack him, so yeah, not too safe. Ultimately, that is what raptors are meant to be. Predators. They aren't meant to be controlled by Chris Pratt with a clicky counter. The turn made perfect sense, and it really upped the stakes. Now Chris Pratt and co had the Indominus and a pack of raptors to deal with. In typical Jurassic World fashion, the moment the film does something right, it goes and fucks it up. The long hunt for the Indominus ends when the raptors corner Chris Pratt and they hesitate. The Indominus looking at the raptor like, well, get on then, kill the twat. The raptor looks at the Indominus like, aye right, hang on a sec. Takes a long loving stare at Chris Pratt's hunky face and beautiful eyes and decides, you know what? Fuck instinct. Indominus, you're a fucking arsehole and you need to get in the fucking sea. Then the raptor goes mental on the Indominus along with the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, and actually they do push it towards a large body of water and the mosasaur leaps out for a spot of lunch. Then the T-Rex and the raptor look at each other like, yeah, we're fucking badass. Ha! We showed her. They literally nod in appreciation of each other. These are fucking dinosaurs. Yeah, they're intelligent dinosaurs, but my god, they aren't human. Why did the raptors turn on the Indominus? They turn on Chris Pratt in a matter of seconds, and we see earlier on in the film they ain't his bitch. They're strong, independent ladies who don't need no man. So why do they turn on the Indominus at the end? It makes absolutely no fucking sense, and it's not explained in the slightest other than because plot. Lastly, I'd like to mention a few things about the film from a technical perspective. I thought it only really got interesting once it got dark. The whole movie takes place over the course of a day, and things don't really get interesting until Chris Pratt leaves with his army of raptors. There's some exciting moments until then, but ultimately I was bored for large sections. Jurassic World also lacks the sense of mystery and fear that Jurassic Park instills, as did The Lost World in Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic Park is classed as a science fiction adventure film. While this is true, it comes across in its production as a thriller/mild stalker horror film. Jurassic Park is about Alan Grant and two kids being relentlessly hunted by an unstoppable dinosaur predator, the T-Rex. When you think of Jurassic Park, you think of the famous T-Rex scene with the 4x4s and the raptors in the kitchen, right? The Terminator, Alien and Predator franchises fell into the same trap. All are science fiction, but they are not outright action films. That's where their sequels fall apart. Terminator is about Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese being relentlessly hunted by an unstoppable metal killing machine from the future. Alien is about Ellen Ripley being relentlessly hunted by an unstoppable alien predator. Predator is about Arnold Schwarzenegger being relentlessly hunted by an unstoppable alien predator. See the pattern here? There's a reason these three films and Jurassic Park kick-started some of the most famous franchises in the world, all of which are still running today, unfortunately. It's because there was something magical and threatening about them. It wasn't just explosions, guns and CGI ejaculations, which is what Jurassic World falls into. That said, the CGI in Jurassic World is fantastic. It doesn't beat the animatronic Spielberg used in Jurassic Park, but it's damn good. I'm a fan of CGI when it's used correctly, and its use in Jurassic World is where it fails. There's just too much. It's like a big tech demo of, look what we can do now! And while it's very, very impressive, it lends nothing to the overall quality of the film. Although I like the colour grade, which some people have criticised, I thought Chris Pratt and Auntie Claire looked a bit plastic. I'm not sure if it was the makeup, lighting or the colour grade, but seriously, do they look weird, or is it just me? To wrap up, I'll reiterate that most of the problems with Jurassic World come from the writing and not the direction. Trevorrow had a fucking terrible script to work with, and he did his best. It could have been a hell of a lot worse. It's watchable, it's entertaining at parts, but it just does not belong in the same franchise as Jurassic Park. One huge monumental thing that Jurassic World was missing, which has been a trope in dinosaur movies since the 80s, was Kung Fury riding a T-Rex at the end. Just saying.